Right now, as you're watching this video, the Middle East is on fire. Bombs are falling, missiles are flying, military bases are burning, and the three most powerful military forces in the region are now directly engaged with each other. Iran, Israel, the United States of America, three nuclear-capable powers, one of them the most heavily armed nation on the face of this earth, are all locked in a conflict that nobody, 6 months ago, truly believed would go this far. But here we are, and the question that every military analyst, every intelligence officer, every world leader is asking behind closed doors right now is the same question I know is running through your mind as you clicked on this video. Is this it? Is this the moment the world tips over the edge? Is this how World War III begins? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what happened, why it happened, who stands to gain, who stands to lose everything, and whether the planet is genuinely standing on the edge of a global catastrophe the likes of which we have not seen since 1945. To understand what is happening right now, we need to go back, not years, but just weeks, because this escalation did not come out of nowhere. It came from a slow boil that suddenly hit a breaking point. For decades, Israel and Iran have been engaged in what analysts call the shadow war, a covert conflict fought through proxies, assassinations, cyber attacks, and quiet sabotage operations. Israel would strike Iranian weapons convoys in Syria. Iran would arm Hezbollah in Lebanon and fund Hamas in Gaza. It was brutal, it was deadly, but it was contained. Both sides understood the unspoken rules. You push, I push back. Nobody flips the table completely. That changed, and it changed fast. After the October 7th Hamas attack in 2023, Israel's appetite for patience ran out. The Israeli government made a decision at the highest levels. The era of managing threats was over. It was time to eliminate them. That meant Gaza. That meant Lebanon. And eventually, that meant going after the source, Iran itself. By late 2024 and into 2025, Israeli strikes on Iranian territory became less covert and more direct. Iran retaliated. The United States, under enormous pressure, tried to hold things together through back-channel diplomacy and nuclear negotiations. But those talks were fragile, and fragile things break. The moment that everything changed, the moment the shadow war became a real war, was when Israel launched what would later be called Operation Epic Fury, a large-scale, coordinated military campaign targeting not just Iranian proxies, not just weapons depots, but core Iranian military infrastructure, leadership compounds, and, according to multiple intelligence reports, the operation that resulted in the death of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei himself. Let that sink in for a second. The man who had led the Islamic Republic for over 3 decades. The man who controlled Iran's nuclear ambitions, its military strategy, its foreign policy, its ideology, gone. Killed in a strike that the world is still processing. And Iran's response was immediate and overwhelming. Iranian forces launched missiles targeting 27 United States military bases across the region. Qatar, the Bahrain, Gulf states that had spent years trying to quietly normalize ties with Israel, suddenly found themselves in the crossfire. A school in Minab was bombed. Civilians were dying. And the United States, with its forces now directly under attack, made the decision to enter the conflict fully. This is no longer a regional spat. This is a war, a real war, between real superpowers and their allies. And the world is watching with its breath held. Let's talk about what the actual military picture looks like right now, because understanding the hardware and strategy matters here. Iran's military, while not a match for the United States in terms of technology, is not to be underestimated. Iran has one of the largest ballistic missile arsenals in the Middle East. It has drone technology, some of it domestically produced, some of it with Russian fingerprints on it, that has already proven capable of overwhelming air defense systems in previous strikes. When Iran fired on those 27 U.S. bases, it was not a symbolic gesture. It was a message backed by firepower. Israel, on the other hand, has arguably the most sophisticated military in the region. Iron Dome, Arrow, David's Sling, layered air defense systems that have performed remarkably under pressure. Its air force is equipped with American-built F-35s, some of the most advanced fighter jets on the planet. And its intelligence apparatus, Mossad, is legendary for a reason. The fact that they successfully took out Khamenei tells you everything you need to know about how far Israeli intelligence had penetrated Iranian security. And then there is the United States. With carrier strike groups in the Persian Gulf, bases across the region, and the most powerful air force ever assembled in human history, the U.S. entry into this conflict fundamentally changes the math for everyone involved. Iran knows it cannot fight the U.S. military head-to-head and survive. So the question becomes, what does Iran do next? And who else gets pulled in? Now, let us address the question you came here for. Will this spark World War III? Here is the honest answer, and I am not going to sugarcoat it for you, because you deserve the truth. The conditions that historically precede world wars are present right now in a way they have not been for 80 years. You have major powers in direct military conflict. You have nuclear-armed states with survival-level stakes on the table. You have Russia watching carefully from the sidelines. Russia, which has been supplying Iran with drone technology and has its own reasons to want American attention consumed in the Middle East. You have China, which has been deepening its economic ties with Iran and is monitoring every move the U.S. makes, calculating what it means for Taiwan. You have Hezbollah, still armed, still dangerous, sitting on Israel's northern border. You have Pakistani and Afghan instability next door to a nation now in chaos. Every one of these is a thread, and right now, someone is pulling on all of them at the same time. But here is the counter-argument, and it is an important one. World wars do not just happen because there's a big conflict somewhere. They happen when major powers make the calculated decision that war serves their interests better than peace. Right now, neither Russia nor China has made that move. Neither has formally committed forces or drawn a red line that directly puts them in conflict with the United States. The NATO alliance, while strained, is still intact. And there are diplomatic back channels operating right now that the public cannot see. Conversations happening in Ankara, in Doha, in Beijing, in Moscow, where cooler heads are at least attempting to find off-ramps. So where does this go from here? 3 scenarios are being discussed at the highest levels of strategic analysis right now. Scenario 1, controlled escalation and negotiated ceasefire. Iran, having lost its supreme leader and faced with the overwhelming military might of the U.S.-Israeli coalition, makes the calculation that survival of the regime matters more than revenge. A new Iranian leadership reaches out through intermediaries. A ceasefire is negotiated. It is messy, it is ugly, but the guns go quiet. This is the best-case scenario. It is possible, but it requires Iran's new leadership to emerge quickly and be willing to negotiate from a position of weakness, which goes against everything the Islamic Republic has ever stood for. Scenario 2, prolonged regional war. Iran does not collapse and does not negotiate. Instead, it activates every proxy it has left. Hezbollah opens a full northern front against Israel. Houthi attacks on shipping in the Red Sea intensify. Iranian-backed militias in Iraq escalate attacks on U.S. forces. The conflict becomes a grinding, multi-front war that drains everyone. But most of all, the civilians caught in the middle. This is the most likely scenario in the near term, and it is devastating to think about. Scenario 3, catastrophic escalation. Iran, cornered, humiliated, and facing regime collapse, makes the decision that only the most extreme action can save it. And here is where the nuclear question enters the room. Iran was always estimated to be weeks away from weapons-grade enrichment capability. In a scenario where the regime believes it has nothing left to lose, that calculation becomes terrifyingly unpredictable. Here is what I need you to understand before you close this video. What is happening right now is not a movie. It is not a simulation. Real people, Iranian civilians, Israeli civilians, American soldiers, Gulf state residents who wanted nothing to do with any of this, are living through something that history books will write about for generations. The decisions made in the next 72 hours, in the next week, in the next month, will shape the world your children inherit. That is not dramatic language. That is just the truth. World War III is not inevitable, but it is closer to possible than at any point in most of our lifetimes. And the only thing standing between that possibility and reality is whether the people holding the levers of power in Washington, in Tel Aviv, in whatever remains of Tehran's leadership structure, choose wisdom over pride. Stay informed. Stay critical. Do not let anyone, no government, no media outlet, no algorithm, tell you what to think about this without questioning it yourself. The world needs clear-headed people right now more than ever. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and share this with someone who needs to understand what is actually happening in the world right now. I will be updating this story as it develops. I will see you in the next one.